Welcome to the Kissing Spine podcast. How nice of you to join. In this podcast I discuss several topics around kissing spine, like what kissing spine is, the different medical treatments, the function of different body parts, functional and dysfunctional training techniques, saddle fit, and a whole lot more. All put together to help you support your horse with the kissing spine. I wish you a lot of fun listening, and if you like this podcast, make sure to become a subscriber so you won't miss any of my episodes. Hi all, welcome back to a new episode of the Kissing Spine podcast. Last Monday, I did 3 webinars about the psychological impact of kissing spine on the horse. And it was a long day because actually the last webinar I had on Tuesday morning for me at 5 a.m. because then it was still evening in the US. It was still Monday there. So, I wanted to make this available for everyone around the world. So I did 3 times, European time, Australian time, and US time. But it was lovely speaking to all these people about what the psychological impact is. There were a lot of whoas and a lot of, I never thought of it this way. And, seeing this light bulbs pop up, it was so much fun to do. And it was such an interesting conversation. More about this subject in the next episode next week, because there I'm going to explain you more about the psychological impact. Today, I would like to talk about the horse that inspired me to create these webinars, because there was a horse in my yard. Well, let me explain it this way. At my own yard, I'm boarding my horses at a different facility, and I don't train horses there. If I go to train horses, it's always at people's places and in their own yards. I never train them in my own yard. Why? Because I feel that the kissing spine journey is the journey of you and your horse. So you can come bring a horse to me, but before the horse is settled down, before you can actually start working on the horse, you don't want to keep moving them back and forth. I really don't believe that that's the healthiest thing to do with your horse, unless it's really trained for that, but a lot of horses aren't. So I always say to people, don't bring your horse to me, let me come to you. So in the yard where I board my horses, it's my hobby place. It's a place where I enjoy my horses. So I don't train horses there and I don't teach there. But there's always a but, because the thing is, if I would be starting to train and teach there as well, I wouldn't be doing my own horses. I wouldn't be working my own horses, and there will always be people wanting something from me, and I don't want that. That's my hobby place. I don't teach in my own yard. Like, I don't pee in my own bed. That you don't want that. You want to keep that space clean. But there was this horse, and I heard a story. I was sitting in the morning at the coffee table. We turn the horses out. I help out every now and then we have some coffee together and we chat and catch up. So I heard the story there about a horse that was in the cross ties, saddled up, and once it got settled and the girth was put on, this horse started bronching and bolting between the cross ties, pulled himself loose and started bucking and running through the hallway. Not the most fun sight to see, as I've heard. And, I started thinking, like, if a horse would start jumping and bronching in the cross ties, there have been a lot of triggers. Warwick Schiller calls this trigger stacking. So he has this whole explanation using bunnies when you're hacking out. The horse is not responding on the first bunny, not responding on the second bunny. Well, he is responding. It's like looking and that's it. And then he keeps on going. And then the 5th bunny all of a sudden is a problem. Yes, because he hasn't processed the previous bunnies. And then he starts to spook. So that's the thing as well what happened to this horse. At least that's what I believed in. Like, okay, apparently this horse has been giving a lot of signals, had a lot of triggers that weren't processed. And then, getting that girth up was like the last trigger. So we had to... Apparently the husky had something to say as well on this matter. I'm not even going to cut this out because it's too funny. It's a husky and they do this. They always want attention from me when I'm busy. So, when I heard this story, I really felt like, okay, it really sounds like this horse has been trigger stagging. Like there's a reason why a horse is showing this behavior. It's not because he likes jumping around, going through the hallway, injuring himself. So the owner of this horse is a 15-year-old girl and her mom, and they have more horses. They have 2 ponies as well. So they're fully into having horses and enjoying it, and they're really not incapable horse owners. Let me just say it like that. And this 15-year-old girl, she is the one who's supposed to be working with this horse. So I walked up to her and I said, hey, I heard this and this happened with your horse. Do you understand why he did it? And she was like, I have no idea, but I'm scared. And I get it, because it's a quite big horse. It's a tense horse, and it's a very energetic horse. So, I can imagine that you were very impressed and you're not looking forward getting on this horse. And then she said, no, because I fell off him not too long ago as well, and I just feel really uncomfortable. And I said, okay, so there's this theory that I've learned throughout the years from this guy, Warwick Schiller. I've been following his stuff for a fair bit of time, and he explains the following. So I gave her the whole trigger stacking idea, and she said, okay, well, if this is what's going on, what can we do about it? And I was actually really surprised by this answer, because I automatically expect people, not to go along in too much woo-woo and the horse just instantly go to the horse just has to listen mode, and he has to do as I'm telling him to do mode. But she was really willing, like, okay, if this is what's going on, let's see what we can do about it. So I talked to her mom as well, and she agreed with the both of us that we needed to take a look at his behavior. Okay, let's see what he does. So I got a little bit of background on this horse, and it turns out it's a very talented dressage horse. So there has been a lot of pressure on him ever since he was young, because they wanted to push this horse to perform, and in the end, obviously, to make money. So apparently he broke his withers at a certain point. He has been a riding school horse, and he never stood still with getting on. Like with mounting, he would always move and walk away. So they tried several things, like cornering him, like holding him and then lifting someone up, parking him behind another horse. Like they tried several things to make him stand still while mounting, but it was always a problem. So this already shows me that he's trying to make clear that there was a problem way before he started jumping in the cross ties at our place. And then we're talking trauma. So he's been vetted. He doesn't have kissing spine. Well, the vet said he doesn't have kissing spine. And but he did inject his back. He didn't have kissing spine, but his back got injected. And then he cleared him for work. Like he said, there's no reason this horse shouldn't be able to work. So I took a look at these x-rays. No, technically the vertebrae aren't touching, but the space between the vertebrae is so minimal that if you would put a little bit heavy person on this horse and would get on a little bit clumsy, it's very likely that the vertebrae were touching. And that gives a very painful reaction for the horse, hence why he's responding the way he's responding. So there is a reason for this horse's behavior. He's been saying, no, I'm not comfortable, or no, this is going to hurt me. Well, his owner, she's a very light girl. She weighs about 20 kilos lighter than I am. She's light, she's skinny. So, I think that he would be able to carry her. But before you're going to think about mounting a horse like this again, we need to go back to the point where he's getting his first trigger. So what we started doing is we put him on a lead rope and on a rope halter, and we brought him to the arena. We brought the saddle pad there, and we brought the saddle there. And the first thing we did was just bring the pad towards him until we noticed that he was responding to it and he was moving away from the pad. And the reason why I did this in the arena is because I wanted to give him the idea that he could walk away. Between the cross ties, he cannot walk away. So he cannot really show clearly what he's thinking and where his mind is at. So I wanted to give him that chance, like, okay, if you want to walk away, do it. So we started walking up with the pad as if we were going to put it on. And when I was about 1.5 meters away from him, so that's about, 12 feet, 13 feet, 14 feet, I was away from him, he started to back up. And he started to show concern. So we've been repeating that from both sides of him until he was okay with us putting a pad on. Like, after I saw that he got stressed, that he responded to it, I took a step back and I waited until he started sighing or licking or chewing, but something that showed that he was releasing himself from that stress. And then I would walk up with the pad again until he would respond, like lift his head, even a little bit. But if he lifted his head or if he would move away, I would take a step back, take the pad away, and wait until he started sighing or until he started licking, until he started chewing. But some of that. So that's how we've been working through his concern about the pad. So that was already the first trigger. The trigger was already the saddle pad. So we started working towards the point that we could put the pad on both sides of him, take it off again, and he wouldn't get concerned. So he wouldn't change when we came up with the pad. He would be totally okay with that. So that took about 2 sessions. So when that went well, we started to bring out the saddle, because at a certain point, it took us 5 minutes to get the pad on and he would be okay with it. So after that, we would bring out the saddle. Well, the saddle was another trigger. So we started working the same way. We would bring in the saddle, like as soon as he responded and showed that he would get concerned, we would take a step back, take the saddle away, waited until he started chewing and licking and that kind of stuff. And when he did that, we would bring out the saddle again. And we started repeating that from both sides. Took a couple of sessions, but about the 5th or the 6th session, it took us about 10 minutes to get the pad and the saddle on. So then it was time for the girth. So while with the pad and with the saddle, he would move away from us, with the girth, he started moving towards us with his hind end. Well, that's not what you want. So it took us about another week before we would be able to put the girth on without any stress. So we're already 3 weeks down the process of getting him the saddle pad on, getting him the saddle on, and getting the saddle tightened. So that's how we worked through that whole process. So when that went well, we started to get the mounting block out. So if you would grab the mounting block, he would start moving away again. He was really concerned about the mounting block. So think about that horse being in the cross ties. He already had the concern from the pad. He had the concern from the saddle and the girth. Yeah, so this horse, with having all these triggers, then was going to be mounted and was moving away. So we had to work our way through that as well. So we started to bring out the mounting block. If he would respond to the mounting block, we would take a step away. We would wait until he licked and chewed. We would bring the mounting block back out. So that's what we've been doing. Then we started to get on the mounting block. He would get concerned. We would get down. We wait, lick, chew. And when that happened, or a big sigh, whatever, but if anything like that happened, we would start over, getting on the mounting block. First step, second step. It took us about 2 sessions until that went well. So that's how we strategically worked our way through his triggers. Next step was to bring our feet towards the stirrup. So getting him to be okay with us bringing our feet towards the stirrup. So we worked our way through the pad and the saddle and the girth. And Jacko is very having an opinion about it all. As you can hear, I'm really sorry, but I have animals in the house. I keep saying that during my webinars as well. So they're here, so they sometimes interrupt me. They have an opinion about everything, especially a husky, huh? So we started working on the mounting block, bringing our feet towards the stirrup, and it took about another week with him being okay, bringing our feet towards the stirrup. It took another week to get him to be okay with having pressure on the stirrup. And after that, I started lifting her up, putting a little bit of weight on his back, see how he would respond. We did it about 3 sessions that we repeated that. And that's the point where we said, okay, maybe it's time to get on now. He might be okay with us getting on. So understand that as soon as you get on, this horse has very bad experiences with riding with a lot of pressure, riding with a collapsed back. So he doesn't know anything but that riding is uncomfortable, that riding is painful, and that he's not being heard or being seen. So it was really important, and this is what I told this girl as well. Okay, we're going to try to get on. For me, it's really important. We're going to do 1 or 2 rounds of walking. As soon as he relaxes, we stop the session and we get off. Even if it's after 3 steps, I don't care. I want him to understand that as soon as he relaxes, it's all good. We're going to stop. That's what we want him to remember. She said, if this is what you say is going to work, that's what we're going to do. So it's really good if people have your support. But she said, I've been seeing how he's been growing. It's a 15-year-old girl. I've been seeing how he's been growing and developing after the last 6 weeks, and how much easier he is to handle compared to how I got him. So I've already won so much. I'm just going to follow your lead. So that was really cool. So we got on, and her face was absolutely magical. She was like, I'm back on my horse. So that's so cool. She was so happy. It was incredible. She was so incredibly happy. So that was so cool. So then I was being next to him, and we've been doing a little bit of work in hand and lunging, and I've been lunging him, so he was familiar with me. So I was next to him, guiding him towards the relaxation that we've been working on in the weeks before. So he would understand the aids and what we want him to do. So I asked her, okay, let's ask him to let him step away, activate his hindquarters, and then we're just going to maintain a little bit of contact. As soon as he's lowering his head or loosening up his jaw, we stop, we get off. It took him about 2 rounds, and he would lower his head, and she said, whoa, I really feel him change now. We stopped, we got off, and we stopped that session. So we had some really great results within 6 weeks' time. And we had fun in this process because every time we saw him grow, every time we told him, hey, I'm seeing you respond. I'm going to take a step back, process your thing, and when you're done doing that, I'll be back to you. We're going to try it again, but take your time for this first. So that was awesome because he really started to trust us, and he really started to open himself up. He even became a little bit of playful and joyful, and that was really a lot of fun to see. So in 6 weeks' time, we got him from bolting through a hallway to being totally okay with getting a pad on, getting a saddle on, having the girth on, and the mounting block, and then getting on and stepping away. In 6 weeks' time. And this sounds like a very long time, but for a horse that's been this uncomfortable for such a long time, it's nothing. It's an investment that she made into a horse that she can fall back upon for the rest of his life. This girl has gotten to know her horse in 6 weeks' time so well that she can instantly say, hey, he's getting tense now. I need to work through this. I need to give him time to respond. So we started on the left lead. About 3 sessions later, we started trying the right lead in the walk. And she said, he is struggling. I feel him getting tense and he is struggling. I said, okay, if this is what you're feeling, we're going to ask one more time. If he says no again, we're going back to the other side where we know that he can do it. And then we're going to finish off. We're going to try it again another time. And in the meantime, you're going to keep on training him, you're going to keep on lunching him, and you're going to keep on helping him develop and get strength throughout his body. So maybe if we're going to try this again in 3 days from now, he still has gotten a little bit stronger. And this, for me, is training with a strategy. This, for me, is looking at the positive. So, okay, this is not what the horse can give right now. Let's go back to what he can give and stop the session there so we can end this in a positive note. We're not going to kick him through. We're not going to push him through, because it's not without a reason that he's saying this. Actually, he's a little bit sore on his right hind leg. So there's a reason why that right lead for him is a little bit difficult. He needs to be a little bit more mobilized. And that is a process that takes time. The reason why I created this webinar is because I saw so many people having opinions about what this girl had to do with this horse that were just, the ideas were just so dangerous. Either this horse was completely talked down and he should be put down and no one should be like, this horse is unsafe. And I know so many people that know this horse and they will never get on him. Well, if that girl says that, it really says something about how dangerous this horse is. No. But people just haven't really invested time in this horse. This horse has been screaming for help and screaming that it was uncomfortable, and no one was really paying attention and no one was really listening. We invested the time to listen to this horse and help him work through the things that were bothering him. And we're going to continue this journey because we love it. Because training is fun. Because we're enjoying spending time with this horse. And this for me is just what having horses is all about. This for me is what training horses is all about. And that's why this horse was my absolute inspiration to share a little bit more about the psychological impact of kissing spine on the horse. Because this horse has been having back pains. This horse has been trained really uncomfortably for this horse. This horse has been asked to work above his levels that he was capable of giving. He was always asked to give more while he was not able to do that. And that made an impact. That made this horse pretty much burn out or become depressed. And now we're trying to help him get out of that with clear results. So maybe you're having a horse that's showing really dangerous behavior while being ridden. Maybe you're having a horse that's showing signs that he's very uncomfortable being saddled or with the girth. You know, if your horse is showing these kind of symptoms, my first thing that I would suggest is getting your saddle checked, because a lot of these issues go away if you know for sure that you have a proper fitting saddle. Don't get the cheapest guy out there. Get the guy that shows results. Or the woman that shows results, that shows that she's knowing or that he's knowing what he's doing. I always recommend Saddle Fit for Life fitters. So if you have someone in your area that's a Saddle Fit for Life fitter, get one of those guys out, because for what I've seen, these guys are absolutely incredible in what they're doing. And they're all over the world. So they might be a little bit more expensive, but they're worth every dime. But if you know for sure that your saddle is fitting, this is a very good way to reintroduce that saddle and to help your horse get over these triggers. Are you inspired by this, and do you want to know more about how to deal with the psychological impact and how to work with the training strategy? I'm starting with a new live course, How to Create a Rehab Plan, on the 11th of November. And you have until the 10th of November 2022 to sign up. It's $99, and I'm taking you through how to assess your horse so you can set the right expectations for yourself, for your horse, and your training. I am showing you the training strategy that I use and that is proven to show results time and time again when it comes to exercises to do and how the phases of training are built up. We are going to discuss training levels, so how to find the right level of training for your horse, what can your horse handle and what not, and how to recognize these signals. Because you don't want to bore the brains of yourself and your horse out, but you also don't want to constantly over-ask your horse, because that's a stress trigger, and you don't want that. You need a relaxed and loose body to have really quality work. We're going to talk about medical treatments, so what treatments are out there and what are their functions, so you can make medical decisions with more confidence instead of just blindly relying on other people's opinions. And I'm going to show you a couple of training techniques that you can try out right away, and that will help you get started in your rehab process or in turning around your rehab process. on the Monday after that, so you have a whole weekend of training, you can upload videos and I can help you improve your training. And then on Monday there is a Q&A and there's also prizes to win. Do you want to know more? Go to my website stjhorsetraining.nl and go to the rehab plan live. You will find it in the menu. For now, I'm going to thank you so much for listening, and until the next podcast. I would like to thank you again for listening to this podcast. If you think that this podcast is interesting to someone else, please share it on social media so others can find it too. This way we can create more awareness about what the options are with a kissing spine horse.